to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message at the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try and force in some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell. You're listening to episode number 304. I am joined by four great people. First and foremost, the zombie, formerly known as Punchinello, is here.
Brains, everybody.
Very zombie-like. I love it.
Yeah, you have me fooled just in time for Halloween. Oh God, he's back!
Hey.
Oh, Insidious!
Oh, the real zombie!
Welcome to the party, Punch.
Where am I?
DeClaude is here.
Oh, we're on a podcast.
Howdy.
Oh.
Hello, everyone.
And Jed, Days Untold.
Hey.
And last, Chira, he's here too.
What's up?
What up, Chira? Yeah, so that's the intro. Let's talk about League of Legends, shall we? Just jump right in here.
Since you asked.
Everybody had a good weekend. Take that, yeah.
Yeah, I got to hang out with my good friend Adam Ponophobia Cogswell on Saturday.
With the Thurmans, had a big
yeah,
burger.
What'd you do? The what?
Only had to wait an hour and 20 minutes to get a table.
I got grumpy at near the last 30 minutes of it.
Yeah,
I was
Adam just
hungry.
cried like a little baby, and then he shoved a giant hamburger in his face.
I came up there and it didn't dawn on us until about 30 minutes left. Punch, that we should have called you during that whole thing. And you like, come on,
I'm sorry,
hang on.
Punch.
Son of a bitch.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe
It's
next
all right.
time.
I missed out on the hour and a half wait.
Yeah, well, it was forever.
I'm trying to tell people like about this. They're like, why would you wait for an hour and a half? I'm like, you don't understand. All right, let's talk about League of Legends because you guys have probably been watching Worlds. You have also likely been playing this game and dealing with the patch notes and sending us replay reviews, and we've been giving you lots of cool things to do. Now that the season is winding down and you only have a few weeks left, we're going to talk into some, it's not relatively new concepts, but relative within the framework of how many patches there have been, and that's double jungling. Because you guys have probably seen that a lot. You've either saw posts on Reddit, you've seen it on the LCS, you've seen it in your games. I know by talking to Bao Bao, who is a Diamond 1 player, that he says the way he put it was, if you don't double jungle in Diamond 1, you get screamed bitched at for the entire game. Like, people are doing it, and it's slowly trickling down through the ELOs. So we finally decided, you know what, we probably should talk about it this week and tell you why people are doing it. So does anybody want to spearhead that discussion, or do you want me to take it right off and push forward?
You should go ahead and start it off, but I will say, at least in Plat, I rarely ever see anyone ever even request a double jungle.
I've heard of it,
I don't
though.
see it
Funny.
either. My warning would be that unless you know your jungler and he's really good, I wouldn't try to double jungle in solo queue unless you're like high diamond, like diamond 3 or up, because the whole point of it is that he gets an entire clear. Like, he gets to go through his entire clear. He's very safe from counter ganking. He gets a ton of gold when he goes back. He rushes an item. But if you're jungling and you're in solo queue and you have no idea, like, if that person knows what they're doing, and you double jungle 2 camps with them, and then they do like race and crab and go back with 50% life, well, then you're like way behind in lane for no reason, and you got nothing out of it.
This is a strategy that you need to know how it works before you attempt it, because if you don't, you're actually putting yourself at a disadvantage rather than an advantage.
Right. I guess we should go over what the strategy is first.
Okay, so
I've never seen it.
the basics behind the strategy are this.
one of
You
my-
are a jungler and a top laner. One of you can't do the jungle, or can't do the jungle very well, or cannot do a camp. So let's say you're Vladimir, for example. You can't take a camp, so you have to go top lane, and you have to start top lane at a disadvantage to the enemy who could take a camp, like a Renekton or anybody who could double jungle. So to make up for that, what you do is you walk with your jungler, and if you're on red side, we'll say, you let the bottom lane we'll just do it this way. You let the bottom lane have Gromp, so the bottom lane now has an advantage to get level 2.
If they want it, know what to do with it.
Right. This is like ideal scenario, really. And then you and the jungler go up to the top to the Krugs. Now, you as the top laner, no matter who that is, tanks the entirety of the camp of Krugs, and you take the small minion, and the jungler takes the large minion with smiting. You then both move on over to red. And again, you, as the top laner, take all the small camps for the gold, and the jungler, your jungler, takes the red buff. You
basically,
you are tanking it the entire time, or for whatever you can tank it without dying.
You both kill the red buff, but the jungler takes it, and then the jungler can just leave while the top laner ends up finishing the little minions. And the jungler just goes about his business. The top laner then backs and then teleports the lane.
So essentially,
with a little bit of extra money.
You as the top laner, you go back, you have no life, but you B, because the jungler then gets to clear his camps. You get enough gold for 5 pots, and you're level 2. So you can go to lane and at least sustain yourself through like a difficult matchup or something like that. You are behind in lane. Like, it puts you back behind in lane, as opposed to like jungler was, like Adam was saying, if you're one of those top laners who can just clear a camp on your own. So you are behind in lane, but it gives you enough sustain to deal with that whole disadvantage.
You're purposely putting yourself behind so you don't have to lose as much if you were bullied out or killed in lane.
Well, that's exactly it. It's taking the decision of, hey, this is a likely bad matchup anyway in top, and then you give yourself a little bit of extra tools to survive a rough matchup, which is what extra potions, another ward, whatever you choose to buy on your back turns out to be.
Ideally, what's going to happen in top lane if the enemy doesn't double jungle as well and they get there first is the lane's going to push against you, which is actually fine for a lot of top laners because they want the lane to push against them, and then they want to gain experience onto the turret while they're safe from that first jungle gank that comes up. This is actually really important for Aurelia. Like, Aurelia's first 3 levels are level 1, she lets the lane push against her. Levels 2 and 3, she flies sits in her turret because she's really good at that. And then as the lane is pushing out away from her lane, away from her tower at level 3, that's when she goes aggressive because she's got the minion advantage, and she's got she just hit level 3, so she has all of her abilities.
Right. And you gain that experience back because the waves are pushing into you, so you are gaining more experience than the enemy is gaining because you're able to kill it faster with the turret help. So there's a period there where you actually gain back up or go ahead of the enemy.
You'll be slightly ahead level-wise until the lane starts to level out again.
Now, this does put the jungler at a slight disadvantage, but it can also be a very large advantage at the same time. It depends what the jungler is and how you look at it. Because if you've done the double jungle pass, what this does is allows the jungler to stay at just about full life, and with both potions, but you're behind a camp, essentially. You need 4 camps to get to level 3 rather than 3 camps.
That's exactly it. You get to clear 2 camps and move on to your 3rd without blowing a single potion yet. So you have that for the rest of your jungle. You can just clear without worrying about anything, because likely if the enemy jungler is invading you, they're probably not sitting at full health by clearing a camp to get a quick level 2 or whatever and then running over to try and kill you. You're way more likely to be able to fight something off or even turn it around when you're full health. And then if you are a jungler that can quick clear regardless, you're going to have extra potions to pop on your way to a lane, and you're going to have a ton of extra health when you actually decide to go gank a lane. If you wanted to, you can get off some pretty interesting level 2 ganks. There's a little cheese involved with that, and then borderline full health level 3 ganks, even level 4 gank if you're just going to keep farming.
Yeah, that's pretty much sums it up to the T there. This is why you would do it. Now, the reason we bring it up is so that you guys can be prepared to do it, prepared to practice it with your friends, or if anybody asks you to do it, you are ready to double jungle with them, because there may be a silver guy. It's like, hey, do you want to double jungle? It kind of seems like it's that weird silver gold ELO where people are trying all this LCS stuff. Again, that's the majority of the players that are sitting there, so it makes sense if they ask you to go and help.
Is it a set path? Does it have to start at Krugs?
No,
it depends what side you're on. So it's usually either wolves and blue, or it's raptors and red.
Yeah, you can pretty much start any camp.
Or I'm sorry, Krugs and red.
It's typically Krugs red.
Now, depending on what the enemy is doing, and this is probably honestly will only happen really high ELO again, is that the LCS takes it a step further by going Krugs red-blue with the top laner, so they can secure both their buffs and not get tri-buffed. And then they go and they 4-mana turret or whatever it may be if they decide to lane swap.
Okay, that's a defensive move.
Yeah, that's why. Yep. That's another reason to take it with you. Like Chira said earlier, it prevents you from being invaded by a single jungler because there's 2 of you.
Okay, and the buffs are out of the way, so who cares?
Yeah, and then you secure both your buffs.
And even if they invade you later, you're full health as opposed to someone who has a really difficult time clearing, and then you're really low and you're really easy to kill.
You'd ultimately be like a camp and a half down in XP running that route too.
But you generally gain it back because you can go back later than the enemy jungle can. So the enemy jungler will have to go back sooner because they're going to be lower in health, lower on potions. You can do the full clear and go back with more money and more life. But the thing, you should also, if you're a top laner in this perspective, you should also evaluate whether or not you're able to fully clear a camp on your own. Because for those top laners who are strong enough to do that at level 1, you can actually do the entire camp, go back, get your item, TP back top lane, and you'll have a level advantage and an item advantage and things like that. So double jungle is more of like the defensive route for like both your top and your jungler, depending on like if somebody's weak early game. But keep in mind that if you are able to do that camp, then don't feel pressured into double jungling. You can take care of yourself too. And
there's 2 ways to do that camp as well. If you're a top laner who can either do wolves or raptors, you can choose to do one or the other. If
wolves
you're
the easier one to do, right?
Yeah, let's say you're on red side, so your jungler is going to be starting Gromp. You can take wolves. Your jungler will just take Gromp, then the blue buff, and then rush right over to the red, while you take wolves back and then head top. And then by the time your jungler can just back, go grab Krugs, and then roll right through the bottom jungle, and his wolves are back up by the time you swing back to bottom. Wolves and Gromp will actually be back up, but.
Another reason the double jungle is so popular in LCS is because 2v1s are so popular in LCS. So it helps you, it guarantees your top laner a level 2, which they can't get sometimes until a few minutes into the game if you're against a really good 2v1 situation. So that helps a lot. And it gives them a lot of options. Like Adam was talking about earlier about you can 4-man a tower somewhere. It gives you more options in that ranked 5 scenario than you would honestly get in solo queue. And it gives you more options than if you were to just go into that 1v2 situation.
It's also dangerous for a top laner to just stand in that 1v2 situation. If you remember when that strategy first started appearing, soon after it first started, the jungler would come and they would actually start a 3-man dive and just kill the top laner that was hugging the tower. So this is also a strategy that countered that is, well, you can't dive anybody that's not there. So
right.
Well, and I think another piece of this as well is that with champions like Elise, who are finally coming back into contention for pick, she's a really good champion at being able to do just that and to get off the really nasty level 2, level 3, whatever gank you want to do. As long as you do it intelligently, you can get that nice 3-man dive where she ends up tanking 2 turret shots and then can just E out. I would love to see the old school Aatrox. Aatrox back. Was this 2 seasons ago where China was picking him almost any game that they had the opportunity to, and they would just end up level 2, level 3-man diving top lane?
Just sounds so weird hearing 3v1 old school and Aatrox.
I know,
because he still feels so new to me.
Yeah.
Right. And we mentioned earlier having your bot lane do Krugs or doing Gromp, depending on what side you are. Please, if you're going to do that, watch YouTube videos first. Or even if you're going to do that, like having your top laner, if you're trying to clear a camp on your own, almost any top laner can clear a camp on your own. Just YouTube a video on how to do it. Because I've seen a lot of supports go into lane with like 100 health because they don't know how to clear the camp properly. And a lot of that is based on which support you're playing, depending on like who tanks what and things like that. So just YouTube it and you can find videos on it.
It's pretty basic I think it's pretty basic between juggling aggro between you and your ADC. Your ADC should be taking far less shots than you do, but
is there any kind of learning curve with the patience meter?
No,
From
you're not.
Fieldway?
You're not kiting
Not
anybody
recently.
far enough to
And
get
with
the patience meter to go
with
off.
the changes that they just made to the patience meter, so that like when it gets back in that zone, it starts taking damage
Better
again.
march
Those helped out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as upsetting if the patience runs out and you're halfway back, because as soon as it gets back in its little zone, you can still do damage to it. It doesn't keep healing, even though you pump a
Right.
quarter of its health
Yeah.
of damage into it in the
Yeah.
meantime.
Just if you've never done it before, Google it and keep in mind like what your champion does. Like Soraka would do it very differently than Alistar, who would do it very differently than Zyra or something like that. So just keep in mind like what your advantages and disadvantages are.
Yeah, and why do you? Well, even with some of those champions, if you are doing the bottom lane take a camp, you also have to consider what your advantages of getting that level 2 and if it's worth it for
Right.
your time. Because like you mentioned Soraka, and that's not somebody I would consider taking the double camp with all that often, because you can't go aggressive at level 2. Well, I mean, you
Right.
can with Soraka, but
Draven.
Well, and I've even
Just dive
seen
The only
turret,
thing
level two
is
with
that
Soraka.
Yeah, right.
it gives you the advantage of not being aggressed
Right.
on too hard early.
true.
I've even seen a couple people give the support the Gromp kill or Krug kill or whatever, so they can hit level 2 immediately as soon as they get the
The
lane and
ability
just
of it,
go
yeah.
in for the cheese as soon as they have the opportunity to go in and just try and take the enemy laners by surprise. That's really, really risky, in that if something goes wrong, you basically just lost your bottom lane matchup right off the bat, so you have to make it work. But if it does work, it becomes, big risks, big rewards, but they're scary, real scary.
Yeah, and know what to do when you get to lane, because I can't tell you how many times somebody has taken that like double or taken the bot lane advantage, and then we've shoved them under tower, and all of a sudden we hit level 2
They put it
first,
back.
and they're like half health because we've been poking them under tower, and they didn't get anything out of it because they were pushed to tower and things like that. So you have to really know, like, not just to get the level 2, but what to do with it and how to control your lane when you get back there.
Crazy Phil brings a point in chat. He says to talk about what to do if the enemy is doing this to you. Sorry if you hear that. My dog is going nuts in the
In
background.
the top lane.
Yeah,
So
but
if
go
you
ahead.
show up at the top lane and the enemy top laner isn't there, then what Crazy Phil brings up is to initiate a slow push against you, which is to get in front of your creeps and take aggro from the enemy creep wave, wait until all the ranged creeps hit you, so they're all grouped up, then you drop aggro by moving to a bush, and now the enemy creeps are all grouped up, so they're going to start attacking your creeps faster, your creeps will die faster, and that initiates the slow push against you. So enemy jungler shows up, and by the time he does, that wave is already pushing toward your tower. So he's got to overextend in order to try to get some CS, and it makes it a dangerous situation for him.
If you have good wave clear, can you push and bounce it real quick?
It takes 3 waves, I think, to bounce after the initial, if that sounds correctly. So it's too hard to bounce it back, and you end
So
up...
they'd probably be back. Yeah, they teleport back in time. So
They teleport back before the first wave. By the time the first, if they're pushing, if the end, excuse me,
Right.
if the enemy's pushing hard, you make it there with the wave pushing into the tower. Essentially, you might lose like 3 or 4 CS or something, if that.
Are you talking about bot or top?
Top.
'Cause you said
Top.
teleport. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you're teleporting top to
Right,
take the
right.
lane.
so come back.
Shameless plug, if you want more crazy tips from guys like Crazy Phil, go check out Battle Arena. Yeah, Battle Arena. It's
Good
great,
one.
guys.
Good one.
Go and do it. I'm just saying, we go check out the Battle Arena.
That's
Go
a
sign
seamless
up.
plug. Good job.
Yeah, it's a good spot to do it. Phil knows what he's talking about. He gives good advice. He just
entertaining.
chimed in, helped keep the conversation going.
That's why we have chat, so people can tell us things that we may have forgotten
So
to write
he's-
down.
He's filling the gaps.
You
Yes,
could say
he's doing
that.
exactly that. He's crazily filling them.
Oh,
Crazily.
God. All right, so that's pretty much double jungle on the nose there. So if you're going to try it, please jump into some games and try it with your friends. See what kind of advantage you get. Do it with, if you really want the full experience, do it with like Shen or Vlad, somebody you can't take a camp, and excuse me. Yeah, do it with somebody you can't take a camp. I mean, hell, even Shen can double jungle if you take taunt early. Like, that's another advantage for it. Let's say that you decide to invade and that Shen takes taunt to get you the kill. You can double jungle at that point to give Shen an advantage when he walks to the lane, because Shen would not be able to do anything if all he had was taunt. just food for thought. There's other reasons to take it besides, even if you would have the advantage.
And write us your double jungle stories.
Yeah. Do it with a friend. It's better no matter what role you're trying to do it in. Make sure that you're doing it with a friend because it's going to be much more successful if you both know what you're doing.
Please
that's
practice
like life,
with a friend.
That's life advice for lots of other things.
Donate and then give Chira double jungle replay reviews.
Be great. I'll sit there. I'll force Adam to do the replay reviews with me. It'll be very enjoyable for all parties.
I was already
involved.
told Mary that I got to come up there once every other month or something, and we have to do a bunch of.
We do a replay day where we just get drunk and do replay reviews.
I should have its own Patreon tier.
Yeah, can we
drunk replays?
Drunk replay reviews.
Drunk replays with Chira and Quinophobia.
$35 a month.
Yeah.
Well, for
wait, they're gonna pay you extra for you to drink?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like you would do that.
No, because there's two of us.
No, yeah, the $10 extra
Double the
would
analysis.
be the
So
beer
we can buy the
money.
booze.
Yeah, that's exactly it. and you're paying for entertainment.
For $45 a month, Punch will join us too.
Yeah,
So we'll do a triple replay review.
I think we're getting crazy here. We should shut up while we're ahead.
You can just call me Phil because I'm crazy.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about this question because since Daze is here, I want to talk about it now. And that's I had asked Guido this just to hear what he had to say last week, but we didn't really get into the topic of conversation. And
Too crazy.
Is each ELO different? Are there champions that specifically work in one ELO but not another? How can I prepare for the ELO that I'm in? And what tips or tricks do you have to get out of my ELO? So this is a 4-part question, essentially talking about the different tiers of what bronze, silver, gold, plat, diamond, Challenger Master looks like.
Do we want to start at the bottom and work our way up with this?
Well, that's why I'm here, isn't
You
it?
can start because I'm trying to look up something real quick because I had something really good for this and I wasn't prepared because I didn't know we were doing this tonight.
It's happening.
It's happening.
I see that. I will be ready in like 1 minute, but
All right.
Kira can do what he was going to do.
I'll make
for
Lance
bronze.
for sitting here and kind of do the Jeopardy music while we wait.
Do.
Oh, gosh.
But for real, this is the biggest piece of advice that I have for people in bronze and silver. Pick a champion that has a high impact ability, like a Mumu or Malphite. And what's the phrase that I had used over and over again?
Wow factor?
No, it's the chaos mechanics.
Yeah.
That's what it is. The
Chaos
chaos
factor?
mechanics. Yeah. So you pick a champion that basically you have a
Low
high
skill
impact.
cap.
You don't need to be the greatest player ever. Like a Mumu.
No Zeds. Pick like
Yeah,
a Mumu.
don't. Yeah, a Mumu is disgusting because you have a Band-Aid that is way fatter when you shoot it out than the tooltip looks like. You would, for people who miss bandage toss, please start practicing it because it's really not that difficult to hit and it's wider than the little animation appears to be and than the
Unless
indicator.
you're trying to
appears
thread
be
the
as
needle.
Yeah. Anyway, a champion like that who you can't go that wrong if you land an ult because you have a giant area to hit with it. So if you get in a really good spot, that's great. And let's say that you didn't get in a great spot, but you still caught 2 people. You still stunned the crap out of 2 people. So like, hopefully your team can follow up on that. And you're tanky, so if things go wrong, you don't insta-die.
Yeah, don't build a Mumu with Rylai's, Haunting Guys, Leandries, Abyssal Scepter, Roa. I don't know. I'm just naming all the things I see.
And
Mumu's build.
God, I love a Mumu. Hey guys, a Mumu does more damage the longer he's in the fight because his W does percentage health damage. So you want to live as long as possible because you're still shredding people just for being around them. And that again, that goes with Malphite. That goes with, you could do it with Maokai's not as great an example. If you're
You can do it with Leona. Leona has a good ult for that.
can do it. Yep, Sejuani's solid. It's those
Blitzcrank. Blitzcrank is like an awesome lower level one.
High
If you can't
impact,
land a hook, just flash in and ult people.
And Blitzcrank's another one of those characters that's like low skill floor, high skill ceiling, and that if you're good at landing stuff, you get way better, and you can use that to keep carrying yourself farther and farther and farther until you either going to hit a wall because people know how to dodge, or you just get good enough to grab people left and right with him.
And he's a really good one too, out of mid.
Yeah, Annie. Yeah. Oh, that's a really good one.
Annie out of mid lane, another great example of that. You can, as long as you're doing as well as the other team, if you get off that one great multi-person ult, you just swung a fight your way, which is huge.
Point and click.
Yeah.
Like, so easy.
It's how Rise used to be. Not New Rise. Don't do it in New Rise. But yeah, it's if you're in those lower brackets and you want to carry yourself, take those champions that you can't screw up that badly on, and if you do things right,
as long as you hit
basically
one
win a team fight with. Yeah. And a lot of the nice thing is a lot of those champions are tanky, so you get the leeway of, hey, I went in wrong, I did something stupid, and I'm not going to instant die, so I have the opportunity to save myself. Maybe.
We're talking multi-people stuns or engages. We're not talking Vi where it's a single person lockdown or Rengar where it's a single person assassination. We're talking multi-people lockdown or multi-people disruptions.
Please do not try to jungle. Like, if you're learning jungle, don't try to jungle Rengar.
Sean's looking at me and trying to tell me how to play Rengar. Right now, it's a point of bad pride.
Go on our Reddit and watch the video that we mentioned last week.
Or watch my replays from this last weekend when I played Rengar.
Don't go ranked if you don't know how to jungle until you hit level 30, get your full runes, get your masteries, and all that kind of stuff, because you're not going to be able to jungle without those.
Tyranny 3000 in chat has the phrase that I coined. It's shock value mechanics. That's what it is.
Isn't that tyranny?
Yeah, tyranny. 3000. Tyranny. Yeah. Tyrannosaurus 3000.
I like it.
Yep. I just improved his name a little. Put a little of that Chi flair on it. But yeah,
so
if you're in lower levels, pick those hands.
All right.
I'm a huge fan of what Cher said, and I've advocated that for a long time. Like, pick one champ and learn that champ in and out, and then learn the role and all that. But there's two different ways that I see the differences between each ELO.
She doesn't want to be seen. I'm sorry. You have to start all over.
There's
two listeners, Adam is panning his camera around.
There's two different main things that you have to master in League of Legends. You have to have good mechanics, and you have to have a good knowledge base. And I feel like there's two different ways that those are broken down. So in mechanics, typically what people in bronze need to work on are last hitting and attack moving, making sure that you're moving between your last hits and things like that. If you're in silver, you probably need to work on your trading, so making sure you're trading while you're last hitting and your positioning. If you're in gold, you probably need to work on last hitting with creep control, so making sure that you're maintaining the creep wave where you need to. Attack moving while you're positioning well. Trying to get the two of them together is really difficult. I'm sure Punch can attest to that, because he probably has to do it more than any of us. Work on your team fights, making sure that you're getting in kind of that danger zone where you're doing enough DPS and still being safe, and making good trades in lead, not just attacking between your last hits, but making sure that they're beneficial trades for you. If you're plat, you probably need to work on all the things that I mentioned with gold, except you need to do it consistently. So you need to be able to do all of those things in every one of your games and every lane and things like that.
I would say it's the difference between doing what you do in gold, but with added pressure on top of it.
Right, and more often.
Get away with
it. Making sure that you're doing it every single time. And then if you're in diamond trying to get above that, you need to make sure that you have perfect TS. You have to have great trading. Make sure you know your champion inside and out, your different matchups inside and out, and things like that. And you need to position perfectly. So
I feel like that's when knowledge kind of kicks in. Is that late platinum diamond mark? That's really when you need to be on top of your game knowledge.
Right. And as far as game knowledge goes, it's really hard to pinpoint, because everybody, I think, learns different things at different levels. So someone might have a great idea of when to roam in bronze and have no idea how to trade. So rather than pinpointing specific things that you need to learn by each stage, other than the mechanics that I just mentioned, is if you look up something called the 4 stages of competence, essentially what it is in order for you to be very, very good at something, like if you're practicing an instrument or sport or whatever it is, chess, anything like that, you gradually become more and more competent in what you're doing. So you'll start off in stage 1, which is unconscious incompetence. So basically, it's like those players or us when we were in bronze that had no idea what we were doing wrong. And this is probably like all those people in bronze who are like, I'm stuck here, it's ELO hell, everyone else sucks, I'm doing so well. So that person doesn't really know what they're doing wrong, doesn't necessarily recognize that there is a deficit that they're not meeting, and they may just deny the usefulness of a skill entirely. So you may just go, oh, well, that was not important. I have 18 kills at the end of the game. It doesn't matter that I have 24 deaths because I had so many kills. And they kind of misplay what the importance of those different things are. And typically the length of time that an individual spends in that stage depends on the strength and desire of themselves to learn. So if you're really willing to learn, then you're going to move out of that stage pretty quickly. The next one is conscious incompetence. And this is where like a lot of people in like mid-silver to low gold probably are, where you know that you don't know how to do something and you may or may not know how to fix it. There's a good chance that you don't know how to fix it. You just know, okay, I'm terrible at this, but you don't know why. So you know, okay, I'm dying too much, but you don't know what it is that what's causing you to die and things like that. And that eventually moves up into where you can start identifying what mistakes you're making and you can start correcting them. And making mistakes, it even says, is really, really important to getting out of the stage. So if you don't make mistakes, then you're not going to recognize how to correct them, and you're not going to get any better. So you have to take risks. Like in terms of League, you have to make risks to be aggressive or to try different things to see whether or not it's going to work. Different builds, things like that. The next would be conscious competence, where an individual understands or knows how to do something, but it takes your concentration. So like last hitting, a good example would be you can last hit at like 85 CS in 10 minutes or 90 CS in 10 minutes, but you have to focus on it. Like you have to watch every single bar, health bar go down, things like that, as opposed to people who in Diamond and Challenger who can just do it out of like muscle reflex. And then that can be broken down into different things where you can add each thing on. So once you become very competent in the last hitting, then you can add the trading onto it, and then all of a sudden you fall back a stage because now you're adding another component onto it. And then the last one, which is people who are generally Diamond, High Diamond, Master, Challenger, is unconscious competence. And that is where everything that you've been working on becomes extremely natural to the point where you can do it consistently without thinking about it. So you may be different stages on different things. So you might be unconsciously competent in last hitting and trading, but you still have to worry about your positioning when you're in lane and things like that, or when you're in team fight. So you can be different levels on each thing. But the people who are going to be Masters and Challenger are going to be unconsciously competent in all of these areas.
And the way to get that is just to keep practicing within each stage?
Yeah, you have to work through each thing that mistakes. You're going through. Yeah, you have to be willing to make mistakes. You have to identify them. You have to identify how to fix it. And you have to practice it until it becomes
each skill set
second nature. Exactly.
Right. Don't sit where I'm at and just keep making mistakes and just think that that's going to make you better.
And practice that one skill set until you become unconsciously competent in it, and then,
muscle
as
memory.
Jay said earlier, just put on another one. And then
Makes
just keep
sense.
adding on to your skill sets.
It's like the Army's doctrine of training, you know, just do it over and over and over again until it becomes muscle memory.
I had a professor, a calc professor in college, who was, the way he would put it is, you just need to do things enough to the point where you know how to do things instantly perfectly. And I think that's the best way to phrase it. The moment you see something, you just unconsciously recognize that this is what I have to do and this is how I do it. And the only way, for the most part, you're going to know how to get there is just by doing it so many times that you don't have any other options other than to know the right thing to do.
And to speak to the skill cap on this game, that unconscious competence is not just talking about everyday mechanics like last hitting or when to roam and whatnot, but it's also talking about immediately knowing your matchup. Just you're a top laner, 2 random champions in a random game. You immediately know how the lane is going to go. You immediately know what items to buy. All of that crap.
Right.
With all these champions in the game, that's the kind of level it takes to be at the very top of League of Legends. Is knowing all facets of the game, not just mechanics, but also that game knowledge.
It's all game knowledge.
I like how Dave's mentioning when you pick a new champ or a new role, you go back a stage, and you have to recognize that you're going back a stage. Instead of thinking you're way up here, which is where you were with that champion, but when you pick a new one, you're going to fall back a little bit. So you have to recognize that.
Even sometimes when you're picking up just a new skill set with that champion. So if you're great at last hitting, but you need to move on to last hitting while trading or things like that, or integrating map awareness. If you're constantly checking your mini map every 2 or 3 minions that you hit, you're going to miss more minions than you would have if you were just staring at them. So you have to recognize that you're going to have ups and downs within your learning, but if you don't try to make those transitions, then you're going to flatline. So you'll be great at those things that you already know how to do, and you'll still be lacking at other things.
I think a good thing mechanically to train over and over again until it becomes muscle memory is learning your hitbox with your skill shots. Blitz's Fist, for example, the bandage that we're talking about with the Mumu. You do it enough and you learn, you know just instinctively, just by looking at the minions, where you can weave and thread the needle, or how you can hit and how far everything goes without looking at that little indicator.
And the important thing about the last step, where you can do it without thinking about it and you can do it flawlessly 100% of the time, is that you can then an important aspect of it is that that skill can be performed while executing another task. So like Chira was saying, where you pick the easy champions that have a huge impact, you learn how they work, and then all of a sudden you can focus on these other things like hitting your bandage shots 100% of the time and things like that. But you have like a starting point where you can have a fail safe, where you can make an impact while you're learning other aspects.
Well, and you can take those champions to a point where when you recognize that you're plateauing because of whatever innate weaknesses those champions might be eventually. So let's say in bronze, you work yourself all the way to gold playing a Mumu. We'll hark back to him for this. You play a Mumu up to gold, and then in gold, enemy junglers start realizing, hey, I can just invade a Mumu because he can't really fight me at level 2, level 3, whatever. And then you decide, hey, this has happened enough. I can move on to somebody else. But you've gained a bunch of game knowledge just in playing and winning and knowing, these are things I have to do. You can move on to another champion. And you might have to take a step back and reanalyze the situation that you're in while you're learning that new champion. But let's say then you decide to move on to jungle Diana, or somebody, hey, you're going to play somebody a little bit more assassin-y, but still kind of innately tanking away, or you want to pick up somebody like Elise. Really high skill cap, but if you can at least land your stun, you can do a lot with her. But you're just building on
Sejuani.
The Sejuani is basically a Mumu, just throwing a ranged version of a Mumu. That's the perfect transition, actually. Yeah, you can just immediately move into somebody like Sejuani, and then when you're comfortable with landing a ranged skill shot like that, hey, move on to one of the other champions that I just mentioned.
Yeah, and if you fall in love with one of those champions, you don't have to leave them. I mean, there's a Challenger anime in there. Before Garen was good. Yeah, now Garen's decent, so that doesn't sound as scary, but like 4 months ago when he was really bad, there was still a Challenger Garen main. So you don't have to give up a champion just because they don't necessarily fit in a meta or they have like severe weaknesses, because you just learn to work around them and you know your champion better than the other person knows their champion.
I lost the top lane once playing into some guy who was low plat that only played top lane Soraka. I was playing Udyr and I killed him 6 times in lane, but it didn't matter. This was pre-changes. This was old Soraka.
Oh, I was going to say.
So, yeah, this was when... she basically just sat up there and pushed the minion wave, and it got to the point where without Ignite, I wasn't able to kill her. So, I kill her 6 times, she's not worth any money. It became a Singed proxy lane, except Singed didn't proxy. She sat in front of your turret and just AoE'd it down, and you couldn't chase and kill her because she didn't give a shit. And if you did, then the jungler showed up. So it became like this weird thing where even though I beat that person, they had fucking hit the lottery on knowing what to do for a situation, and our team couldn't react to it. So they were able, just with pure champion knowledge of a champion in a position that champion probably shouldn't work, that carried the game for them.
Well, that was like the old Fiora remains again before she got reworked, where you never saw Fiora and she wasn't great if you just started playing her. But if you saw her in ranked, it was like, oh shit.
Yeah,
because
be
you
afraid.
know that person had a ton of experience. You know that person knew exactly what to do in every situation, and that person knew how to play from behind. So even if you got ahead of them, they were coming back.
And same thing with Poppy mains back in the day.
Yeah.
You might not see a Poppy main, but if you did and they knew what they were doing, and you got to the 30-minute mark, there were a lot of people that were going to die.
Horrifying. You see a Poppy get locked on the enemy team, it's horrifying.
Poppy scares me now. If it's picked, Poppy scares me.
Yeah.
A champion
Because I don't
still,
ever see Poppy.
Still considered bad, has one of the most OP passives, period.
And ultimate.
Don't
Ultimate.
underestimate
Ultimate.
people just because they pick a champion that you think is crap, because people can tear your face off with them.
I want to hope and pray and say that League is pretty much past that point where there are champions that are just dog shit. Because Evelyn was in season 1 and season 2, or season 2 rather, really was what it was, maybe into 3, was considered just absolute trash. Like, you were trolling if you picked that character because there was like almost no way to win. There's really not that many champions like that anymore.
No, but there are
the
still
list is
champions
growing
who
very
are
slow.
underrated and who are weaker than others.
And it's, well, we're going back to scrub mentality here, but if you really love a champion, you think, other champions are cheap or whatever, and you like this champion because it's harder to play, whatever. If that's what you like and that's really what you love and that's what motivates you and gives you the passion to play that champion, play it and you will become awesome at it, him or her.
You can play any champion you want, but the road, if you're trying to at least rank up, is going to be much harder by choosing some champions than it will be with others.
But learning to accept that and say whatever is actually really good just for the rank journey in general. So
what I'm
if
doing
you're
with
doing that,
Rengar.
then you're preparing
Let's
yourself
go.
to do it.
And even look back
Just
to
give up on Rengar.
I have.
to
I've given-
last episode where our good buddy Guido was on, and he's just like, "Hey, all you crybabies, stop crying. This is a game. Play the game. Have fun. Do what you're meant to do while you're
not gonna be
playing
a
this.
pro,
You're
damn it."
supposed to enjoy yourself." Yeah, in the legendary words of Guido, you're not going to be a pro. So stop acting like you are.
On the topic of those bad champions, or I want to say bad champions in quotes. I'm using air
Bad.
quotes.
Right.
I think it's harder to identify what those champions are now, since pretty much everyone's most of them have been reworked. So almost all of them have some
I'm
sort of
saying.
niche that they
Or most of them,
fill.
even if they're considered bad, still have a build that works. Like
Yeah.
they still have something you can do
Right.
that provides some
help the
benefit
team,
to your
yeah.
team, even if
people
it
still
all right,
fall into the trap of not seeing a champion forever and then thinking it's bad. And hey, have you guys heard of Vigar? I've seen him come around in Worlds.
yeah,
Noah's
he
been playing
was
him, and all of a sudden he's blowing people up.
deleting people left and right. All
It's
right.
funny
was
though
famous for
too,
that.
because people forget, like he just mentioned, people forget how to play against someone, and it's ridiculous the things they do. I played Zyra last night, and we had a bush warded, and all 5 of them stacked in one bush by a Baron. So all we had to do was snare and throw all down, and they all died. And it was like, why would you do that? Why would you do that against like a Zyra? People do it against a Mumu too. That's why Mumu is so great in bronze,
someone
because
with an
people
ult like
just 5-man stack. And you get a 5-man ult, and it's actually not that difficult to do.
I had a fail moment like that against Soraka, where I was Kennen, and I was going to teleport into their back line, and then ultimate. It was going to be great. I was going to ultimate their back line and kill everybody.
It was going to be great.
Except Soraka's got the silence zone that you put down on top of the teleport board. So I
Yeah.
showed up and
Smash.
just immediately
Come
died
on.
and felt like an idiot.
Yes, that's my
That
probably my
was,
favorite
I think that
move.
was shortly after she was reworked.
It's probably my favorite move with Soraka, is when people teleport, is waiting till the end of the teleport comes in and then dropping your zone down, because then
Yep.
even if you don't get rooted,
Feels
you're
bad, man.
silenced at the moment you get in there. That's all
It's
you
great
need.
against TF. It's so funny.
Root and silence. Good luck doing anything.
I think people forget that though. Like you'll play somebody like Soraka and lower elo, and there'll be a champion like TF, and it's like, oh, TF's coming. You're playing Soraka. What are you gonna do? And knowing that champion instantly, perfectly. Oh, I'm just gonna drop my E down and not care. I'll or W, whatever her abilities are nowadays. I don't remember.
Her
I don't
E
play
is the
Soraka. Hey,
silence.
Adam, why don't you tell us, Mr. Plat 3 or 2?
No,
Soraka?
4 right now.
All right,
4.
all right, all right.
Oh.
let it be known that Adam might be a Platform Soraka player, but he's a solid Silver 3 Rengar.
Wait, Adam. So, when you're playing Rengar, do you fall behind early?
No, I'm just bad. I'm just a bad jungler. That's all it is. It's not even the Rengar. It's just I'm a bad jungler.
If you try to get kills and collect trophies from when you're behind, is it a cat hash trophy?
It might be. It probably is a catastrophe. You're right.
I've been trying to figure out how to word that this whole episode. I still haven't got it yet, but
hey, look at that though. Like that's a really good example of what we're talking about, and that even if you're a plat level player and you decide to play a high skill cap champion, we'll throw Rengar in. It doesn't matter that you're just plat 3. If you jump right on that champion and you haven't played it a lot, you're not a plat 3 player on that champion. Like you have
my combos. You should see me screw up my combos. Like I'm like, all right, I got 4 stacks. Well, I'm gonna get 5 off this ability, and then I spam Q and double Q rather than throw in the E after I get the
There was one where you like jumped in and then immediately flashed out because you're like, oh shit, and you panicked, and I was like,
I can't do this. And hey, I've been telling Adam this. If you're not great at that, immediate assassin Rengar thing, you can play him tank with 1 damage item and still do solid damage and not die with your W.
Nah, I'm just gonna play Blob,
which is a good way to learn the combos.
Or just keep practicing him until you can play him better.
I'm just going to play Blob or Nautilus and learn the jungle, because I'll be a way better Rengar player if I actually learn routes and pay
Zach
attention.
is really good right now.
Well, and because he's fun to play.
He's very fun to play. When you land a blob missile from half a millennia away, we transcended length, width, and moved straight onto time with jumping over shit with Zach right now, because he can E from anywhere and hit you, and it does a lot of damage. So
I wanted to talk about there's a Twitter, or not a Twitter question, a listener question about why isn't Brand played. He has all this right, and to go back to our earlier point where it's people aren't playing a champion, and I think people forget about a champion, and that's the reason it's not seeing a lot of play now. Being immobile is one of the big reasons, but he can be a pretty big bully outside of that and do a lot of damage. Just the immobility turns people away. If you don't have superb positioning in team fights, you're dead. So that turns a lot of people away from playing those champions, because there's champions who can make up for your lack of skill or lack of familiarity with a champion. That's primarily the reason he's not played.
Or have an escape.
He's a champion that, on paper right now, he's probably not considered nearly as good as other people. You could have said the same thing about Vigar, and then we just saw Vigar played at Worlds, and he did great. But a champion like Brand, not only does he have no escape, not only does he not have a way to chase that well, but he also has, a 5-second window if he misses his abilities before he's doing anything again.
Unreliable CC.
Yeah, it's not just unreliable CC. It's if you miss your damage or you don't combo correctly, you are not doing anything for the next 5 to 6 seconds.
Vagar is exactly the same way. If you miss your E, you're doing nothing for the most part. Like, that's what you're there for. That to obliterate whoever you catch.
But if you're a good enough player at it, you can make it work. You can be that Brand that knows what they're doing, and you get that ult off in a fight and end up killing 3 people with it because they're standing too close because they forgot to respect your power. Right.
Hit the E, get stunned, or walk into your meteor. If you play right, you can make them choose. So do kind of the same thing with Brand.
Brand is one of those champions. Sorry, Brand is one of those champions that also scares me when I see them in champ select, because I just know how much fucking damage he does. That's crazy, especially in the support role. He's a beast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brand is he's a high damage, low utility mid with a lot of skill shots. And you have no mobility. So most of the Ori, who has no mobility, makes up for it with a lot of utility and things like that. So when you combine all of that, then you have not a lot of room to work with, especially all of his skills. Her skills aren't on terribly high cooldowns, but Ori, her ball's up every second. She has a lot more that she can do. If she misses one, then it's fine. She missed one, and she makes up for it in utility. Brand has some utility, but not nearly as much. He's mostly based around damage. So if you're gonna miss your shots, you're not doing anything.
Yeah,
and he's not as safe as right.
Well, yeah,
he's not nearly as safe as Xerath or anything like that, who can play from farther back.
Right. He's gated by all his cooldowns, with Pillar Flame being 10 seconds, E can flag being 12, Seer being 8, and those all go go
He's
down.
he's gated by cooldowns, and if your positioning is off even slightly, you're probably dead because he's not panic buttoning getting out anytime soon. Yeah. Unless he has flash up, and even still, there's a lot of champions that can just close that gap again.
With that said, he does a fuck ton of damage if you.
Now we're going to that point where, with all that being said, if you can land his combos, you can snowball the mid lane. By all means, play Brand. He's amazing if you can do that.
And he's one of the highest win rate supports right now.
Right.
He's actually really good out of the support because you have more of a window of opportunity where you have your skills up. You don't have to use, a lot of the problems is brands will get pushed in a tower and have to use their skills to CS instead of harassing and things like that. You don't have that problem in bot lane. You have 2 people to get in way of all your CC. Like, there's a lot more, and his ult's more effective in a 2-person lane. Now, like, Brand is pretty scary out of bot lane.
This conversation turned into like what ELOs. It went from what champions are good and what ELOs, and we've kind of transitioned this more into, hey, if you like a champion and you learn how to play it, you can succeed basically wherever you go. But I want to go even farther with that and say, don't even look at it as like, I like this champion, I like this champion, therefore I'm going to play it. Look at it, I really like this champion, so how am I going to make this champion work for me to obtain my goals in League of Legends? Because it's one thing to
really good at this champion,
right? It's one thing to like Vygar and to be like, hey, I'm just gonna play a lot of Vygar and whatever. It's a different thing to be like, okay, I've decided I really like Vygar. I want to play Vygar. What do I need to do to be as good of a Vygar player as I can be, and to just make the other team want to rage quit every time I pick this champion?
And more than that, like, what can I learn about the champion through Vygar?
I wanted to bring up that when you're deciding that champion, though, I think playstyle is something that you need to take into consideration. It's not just aesthetically, I like this champion. It's this champion
is good for
can
me
be played a certain way that I enjoy playing. Like, I enjoy playing assassins and jumping in the back line and killing somebody.
I like playing Olaf because I can be tanky and run past people and kill them regardless of what they want to do to me.
Right.
Listen, so I enjoy jumping the backlines and killing people, but I've yet to be able to do it.
Yeah, but you're just so bad. It's so bad.
I still like to do it, though.
Else you enjoy doing?
Yeah, please pick a different thing.
I like beer. I like brewing beer. Well, I think, guys, this is the last episode of the Trinity Force podcast. It's now a beer brewing podcast.
You keep saying things like that, and it still has yet to come to fruition.
I don't know enough about beer to make a beer brewing podcast. Sorry, anybody out there who was ever hoping for one.
You do one episode of you stumbling through the process, and that's the depth of your knowledge on that subject.
It's pretty in depth, but at the same time, I got a lot to learn. Just like with this game, I got a lot to learn.
I mean, we're all platinum, and we have way more to learn. I still feel I don't know. I know the new Fiora is scary. I could not tell you what her QWE are right now, other than her Q can dash. I couldn't tell you a single thing. And I do a podcast on this twice a week.
The thing about wherever you get to is that by climbing, you gain a crazy amount of knowledge that gets you to a certain point, and then you plateau. And at some point, you have to reevaluate what you thought you knew about the game, because you learn what happens and what's effective at different ranks. Or even if you watch streams or pro players, like, you know what they're doing, but you might not be able to implement it. You might not know why it works, things like that. And I can promise you, I thought I knew a lot about the game back in Silver. I thought I could teach people about it. I know a lot more about the game in Plat than I did in Silver. And I promise you, when I get to Diamond, I'll be like, man, I didn't know shit about League of Legends when I was in Plat. You change the way, and the game is played differently at different ranks. Like, it really is a different game in Diamond as compared to Bronze.
I think the higher you climb, the more you realize how much you don't know.
Right.
I guess if you get to the point where you find yourself getting frustrated and blaming other people or blaming RNG, that's the point where you need to say, whoa, okay, if I'm getting at this point, maybe I have plateaued. Let me try to evaluate what I can do to improve from here, because I'm not climbing. Consistently. It'll happen every now and then.
Let's roll this into some things that you guys may be interested in, which is Worlds Party, huh?
Oh yeah, Worlds Party this Saturday. Halloween Saturday. Be up bright and early. Doors open at 7, I believe. 7 a.m.
Where do they open up at?
at the Gateway Film Center right next to OSU's campus. It's on North High Street.
This is again where?
It's in Columbus, Ohio. You can go to the T4 subreddit and look at the World's Party link right there, which I believe I'm going to check it. Keep talking about it, Adam, while I check to make sure, because there should be instructions on how to get there.
Yeah, there is. It's on the T4 subreddit. You can find it. Just look for World's Party on there. It is it's just off of OSU campus. You might as well call it OSU campus at that point. Technically,
campus has classes in one of the theaters every once in a while. They will schedule classes in those theaters. So it's owned by the university, so fuck it. It's part of campus. Anyway, we'll be there bright and early. Come and hang out with me, whatever. We got some buttons to pass out and some stuff. And I think
RP card giveaway.
RP, yeah. And just hang out with some people and watch the games. We'll have 2 rooms. One seat's like 60 something. The other seat's 125. So come get there, hang out, drink a couple beers with your good pal Chi-Chi. And I know Lashak said he's coming up. Badger should be there. A couple other people are coming up. It should be a lot of fun. So come and hang out.
Yeah, go check it out. That's our World's Party this year.
Punch, are you coming?
Yeah.
All right, you better be there.
7 a.m. I think the pre-show starts at like 7 a.m. or might even be
well, I mean, I'll probably be up there way earlier helping the Buckeye Land guys do stuff. But doors technically open at 7.
There's that.
And hey, if you want to get a hold of me and you don't know how, just tweet me, because at Cheer Jaden on Twitter, not too hard to find because you can look up my name on our website or whatever. If you don't know how to get there and you need instructions or anything like that, just let me know on Twitter and I'll do my best to help you out.
Keep your phone charged.
Yeah, I will.
There's that. And then the week after, there's an even bigger event here. We are taking part in Extra Life. Doom Spikinator is heading that, and it's going to be a 24-hour event starting on November 7th at 8 a.m., I believe is when he's starting it. We're starting with some normal League of Legends games. We'll be transitioning eventually into some Dungeons & Dragons. I know Days will be streaming for a block during the day, either playing Diablo or League of Legends. There is a block in the afternoon between like 3 and 5 where we're still working out what we're going to be doing. But at the very end of the night, the Just Okay Gamers and Trinity Force Network will be collaborating to do some 5v5s, some really fun 5v5s, in the same style that we did with Operation Supply Drop, where you guys donate to make us do some really stupid stuff. Now, I will be playing on that night. Hopefully, some other people from the network will be playing in that group of people against OK Gamers.
I'll show up whenever you need me.
November 7th. It's going to be a 24-hour event. It's going to go through late at night. I know there's going to be a Dungeons and Dragons portion for like 3 hours where they're going to play and do donations to make them do stupid stuff. As Dorition is going to play Minecraft in the early morning, and I think our goal right now is $3,000. And we really want you guys to show up and donate to Extra Life and donate to this charity. None of this money goes to Trinity Force Network. It all goes to Extra Life and to the Child's Miracle Network or Children's Miracle Network. And yeah, that information, you'll find that on the subreddit at T-Force Network or on trinityforcenetwork.com. That'll be out by Wednesday at the latest. We're finalizing the schedule this evening. We had to wait for a final meeting. Right now, we're potentially talking about doing some 1v1s where you guys can sign up and play 1v1s, but have like donations, do some stuff. I don't know. It's like up in the air right now what might happen, but that's like that weird block. We're trying to fill that last block of time. But yeah, join us on November 7th. Bring your wallets. Be generous. Remember, they are tax write-offs. So if you donate something, and ask your companies too. By the way, if you work for a larger company, a lot of companies will match your donation, right, which helps us get to
it's a tax write-off for them too.
Right. Yeah. So I think there's a checkbox when you do the donate where it says my employer will match my donation, and then you type in your employer's information, and they'll contact them to get the money later. So please go talk to your HR department and see if they will do that, because we would love to raise more than $3,000 for Extra Life this year. So yeah, November 7th.
I'm going to try to make it.
Thank you. Yeah, Declan. Just join. I mean, I've already talked to the girlfriend about it. I said, you know what? I need 4 hours that Saturday night to play. She's like, all right, cool.
Well, my wife usually works a double on Saturdays, so let's see if you can maybe just do a single that one so I can have the evening or something.
I mean, even if you just stop by, or you put Cinder to bed and you stop by later that evening for a couple of games.
Maybe we'll both stop by.
Oh,
She'll
Cinder
scream.
can play.
Yeah.
oh yeah, she'll play Syndra. It would be
I
great.
prefer the music.
But you guys can play Dungeons and Dragons in the middle of the day. I'll get the schedule. I'll figure it out here in the finalize.
Telling you, she's just like Cinder. She throws things, so she'll be throwing things at the keyboard.
Just give her a
With
D20,
force of
and
will.
we'll see how she can be
How
the
far she could roll it.
the D&D goddess of destruction.
Natural
That
20s.
just destroys
10 in a
people.
row.
10 in a row.
Nice.
Oh, God. All right. Anybody else have any other announcements? Or is that it for the end of the show announcements?
I'm about to end this and go do the Elise Champion Select podcast.
Oh yeah.
So we're
I'm
going to have
wearing a
Elise
halter.
done tonight. So you'll have that in the next 2 days.
Close to my heart.
Patreon.com/T-Force Network. $10 a month. Go take care of that. To Claude.
Close to your heart.
To Claude is holding up
You know
a
what
heart
this
monitor.
is, Chira? Mr.
Is that
Medical?
what that
Yeah,
is?
It is a hard one.
it is.
That's pretty
I
cool.
got all the nodes.
All right, we're gonna let her go do
really?
the Champion Select podcast, guys. Thank you so much for supporting us. We're very excited to push forward and bring you guys more content and play Just Okay Gamers on that Saturday the 7th. So, guys, we will see you all on Wednesday. That's it. Yeah, peace.
All right, guys.
See
See
ya.
ya.